Paddington 2, Chapter 22 and Epilogue. Paddington and the Big Surprise. It was 3 days before Paddington finally woke up. He blinked blearily. Everything was out of focus. "Where am I?" he asked sleepily. "Don't you exert yourself now," said Mrs. Bird, stroking his forehead. Paddington opened his eyes up properly. His face shone as he realised he was back in his own attic room. He looked around and saw that the whole family was there, waiting patiently for him to wake up. "Paddington!" exclaimed Judy with joy. "Take it easy now," said Mrs. Brown, laying a hand on his paw. "You gave us a wee scare." "But you're home now," said Mrs. Bird kindly. "Home?" said Paddington. He tried to sit up. "That's right," said Mrs. Brown. Judy handed him a copy of the newspaper. The headline read, "Exclusive. Paddington freed, actor arrested." "The police realise they've made a terrible mistake," said Jonathan. "Phoenix Boochman has been sent to prison," Mr. Brown explained, "and I might add he's been thrown out of my company's Platinum Cup." "You're a free bear, Paddington," said Mrs. Bird. Paddington smiled. "How long have I been asleep?" he asked. 3 days, Jonathan declared. 3 days, Paddington repeated. "But that means—" "It's Aunt Lucy's birthday," said Judy, nodding. The spark went out of Paddington's eye. "Oh, and I never sent her anything," he said. "It's all right, Paddington," said Mrs. Brown. Paddington struggled to sit up again. "No, but you don't understand," he protested. "Aunt Lucy gave up all her dreams of coming to London to look after me. I wanted to give her the pop-up booking as a small way of making her dream come true after all. Now she's going to wake up on her 100th birthday with no present, and she's going to think that I've let her down completely," he said miserably. "Oh, you great goose! She won't think that," Mrs. Bird said. "Won't she?" said Paddington. He looked around at everyone's faces. They all seemed strangely excited. Mr. Brown exchanged a cryptic look with the others. Then he beamed and said, "Come with us." The family helped Paddington out of bed and led him down the stairs. "What are all these people doing here?" Paddington asked in surprise. The hallway was packed. The whole neighbourhood had come to wish Paddington well. Mr. Gruber waved up at him. "Here he is," he said to his friends. "Paddington's here." Everyone turned to look at him, and they burst into spontaneous applause. Paddington could not believe his eyes as he scanned the crowd. "What are you all doing here?" he asked. "We wanted to say thank you," said Miss Kitts. "Thank you?" Paddington repeated, looking puzzled. "For everything you've done for us," said Miss Peters. The crowd murmured and nodded their agreement. "If it wasn't for you, we'd never have met," said the Colonel, putting his arm around Miss Kitts. "You helped me pass my exams," said Fred Barnes. "And I would be permanently locked out of my house," said Dr. Jaffrey. Paddington turned and looked at the Browns. He was feeling rather overwhelmed. Mr. Brown put his hand on his shoulder. "I say you have rather a lot to be proud of, Paddington," he said. Mr. Gruber chipped in. "When we heard that the police wanted the popping book for evidence, we thought we'd get Aunt Lucy another present," he said. Dr. Jaffrey nodded. "So we all clubbed together," he said. "I've pulled a few favours from my old Air Force chums," said the Colonel. "And we think she's going to love it," said Mademoiselle Dupont. Paddington was baffled. "But what is it?" he asked. "You wanted to get the book for Aunt Lucy so she could see London, didn't you?" said Mrs. Brown. Paddington nodded. "Well, we thought, why look at London in a book when she could see the real thing," Mrs. Brown explained. As she said this, the doorbell rang. Paddington looked at Mrs. Brown, not daring to believe. "Why don't you go and answer it?" Mrs. Brown said, nodding towards the door. Paddington did as she suggested. His friend stood aside as he walked down the hallway to the door and opened it, and there on the doorstep, standing in the snow, a suitcase in her paw, was "Aunt Lucy!" cried Paddington. "Oh, Paddington!" said Aunt Lucy, pulling him into a warm embrace. "Happy birthday, Aunt Lucy," said Paddington, and his face lit up with the look of perfect joy. Epilogue. Things worked out well for everyone in the end. While Paddington enjoyed showing Aunt Lucy round the London's famous landmarks, his friends Knuckles, Fibs and Spoons were enjoying themselves too. They had been granted parole for good behaviour and were spending their days setting up a lovely tea room, selling cakes that they had learned to make in the Portobello prison. Meanwhile, Phoenix Boochman had taken their place. He wasn't letting prison get him down, though. He lost no time in finding a way to put on a most extravagant musical number with the other prisoners. He may not have been a success in the West End, but he was doing very well inside. As he said, it seems all I needed was a captive audience. The end. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll find another book for you to read. Bye-bye from me and Peter.